Hey Sleuths, welcome back to Cold Case Study for another Spooktober Minisode. If you've seen the scary movie Dyatlov Pass from 2013, you already know all about the Dyatlov Pass Incident. If you're not sure if you've seen it, think Russia, a big group of hikers, suspenseful music, and snow-white, horrifying creatures in a scientific experiment gone wrong. It's what I first thought of when I started reading about this case, something I'd watched back in high school that reaffirmed my distaste for hiking and snow. I know that I've been pretty bad at this whole Spooktober thing, but mental health comes first. If you guys ever need to talk, don't be afraid to DM me. This episode won't be the most informative podcast episode ever done on this incident, I'm admitting that now. But I'm a true crime podcaster, not a conspiracy theorist, so I don't have a full grip on how to go into all of this stuff, even though I did take a conspiracy theory class in high school or in college. But that was on Middle East and U.S. political relations and how they're affected by conspiracy theories, but that is a whole nother can of worms. But we're gonna keep this short. So grab your sleuth book and top off your coffee because today we're diving straight in and I've only got one question for you. Can you help solve this cold case? Warning, the following audio contains adult content. Listener discretion is advised. In January of 1959, a group of 9 hikers led by 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov set out. The 9 were all university students and experienced hikers. Despite their dangerous and difficult plans, no one was really worried about them. If a few of my college buddies and I wanted to walk a few blocks down to Walmart for groceries, our parents would be really confused. Why aren't you using a car or at least a bike? So that dozens of people knew that these 9 students were going to trek through the Ural Mountains in the middle of winter and weren't really worried says a lot about their skill levels. The hikers were, and I apologize in advance for my Russian pronunciation, the hikers were Ludmila Dubinina, Yuri Krikoniecko, Rustem Slobodin, Alexander Kolektov, Semyon Zolotaryov, Yuri Doroshenko, Zenaida Kolmogorova, Nikolai Thibu-Brankonno, and of course, Igor Dyatlov. While Dyatlov was the leader of the group, Semyon Zolotorov had the most experience hiking and was the oldest, I believe. So the group set out in January, and there are records of the team up until February 1st. When I say records, I mean cheerful diary entries and pictures of the friends, scurrying around and having fun on the trip. And these things were recovered by search and rescue teams down the line. Interestingly enough, not all the film from the camera was recovered, something to note in your sleuth book. Regarding the timeline of the trip, things didn't start off well, meaning that they were already behind schedule when they started. Hikes, especially through snowy mountains, could easily get delayed, so people from the university and other experienced hikers weren't extremely worried when they were late checking in with the university. However, their families were worried, which I don't blame them. I can't imagine someone I love going on a dangerous hike through some mountains in negative 30-degree weather with a cell phone, let alone without one, because it's, the 1950s. But eventually, a search party was sent out, and it took 3 months to locate all 9 bodies. They were all roughly 6 miles from their final destination of Mount Orotin. 6 hikers died from hypothermia, 3 died from their injuries. 2 hikers had fractured skulls, and one of the women, Dubinina, was missing her eyes and her tongue. I read something that the missing eyeballs could be explained away through decomposition, but no one can really explain the whole, missing tongue thing. The injuries to other hikers seem to have been caused by immense pressure, like the type of injuries you would see in a car accident, but they didn't have bruises or anything like that on the outside of their bodies that I could find like written down anywhere, so it's a little hinky. You have to admit it. Was it aliens? Possibly. Was it a Yeti who had a rumbling in their tummy that only tongues could satisfy? Again, possibly. A few of the bodies were found in a ravine, and 2 bodies were at the base of a nearby tree with their hands like all tore up. All of the bodies were in a state of undress or completely naked. And I just want to remind you that it's negative 30 degrees out and something made them cut themselves out of their tent buck naked. Also, an important thing to note in your sleuth book is that there were only 9 sets of footprints, meaning that no one else walked around the hikers or the campsite before the search team got there. Which makes a theory down the line sound a little suspicious, so you know what to do. The campsite itself was on the side of the dead mountain. I mean, a little ironic. Many experienced hikers and survivalists that have seen the pictures of how the campsite is set up insist that the tent was set up incorrectly, which they insist can only mean one of 2 things. Either that the Dyatlov group was completely incompetent, or that the KGB was. You heard me right, this could all be a government cover-up. Some people think that Semyon Zolotorov, Alexander Kolokov, and Yuri Koseneko were KGB agents who were trying to find a group of CIA agents and deliver some radioactive material to them, then take pictures of the CIA agents with the material. It's a convoluted theory, but at the same time, it was during the Cold War, so it makes sense to blame the Americans and the KGB. 2 of the men were found to be radioactive, though, which is still very hinky, even more so without any KGB or CIA involvement. So, aliens. Going along with the government involvement, some people think that the Russian military was experimenting with special purpose radio probes in the Ural Mountains at the time, and that it involved a balloon with a gas that contained short-lived radioactive isotopes. At some point, something collided with one of these radioactive balloons and caused the hikers to die of phosphorus poisoning. This theory was brought to life by a KGB veteran and head of the faculty of the Military Medical Institute, Vladimir Nagayev. In 2018, he claimed that the Dyatlov group willingly participated in this experiment and died because of it. Vladimir's claims are slightly supported because phosphorus poisoning makes the skin go brown, which some reports say that is what the hikers' bodies had, brown skin. Then there's the Gulag escapee theory, where someone escaped from a nearby-ish gulag, which is a labor camp type thing, but very cold. There's a teaser trailer on YouTube from Expedition Unknown that gives you actual footage from a gulag, and it's eerie. I'm sure if a paranormal podcast or investigative group could get permission to camp out there for a night, that they would find some spooky shit going on. I don't mean to make light of the horrors that occurred at gulags in Russia. Out of the 18 million people incarcerated in them, 1.5 million people died. But when the Gulag escapee theory was first floated, the guards ran a check and found out that no prisoners had escaped within the appropriate time span. The original Russian investigation into the Dyatlov Pass Incident concluded that the deaths were caused by a, quote, compelling natural force, end quote. Which, what does that even mean? But in 2019, the case was reopened, and they concluded in 2020 that there was an avalanche that forced the hikers to abandon their tents in various states of undress and without supplies, which I find hinky, very hinky, because the picture of their tent shows barely any snow on it, and my understanding is that there would have been, like, if there were to have been an avalanche, then there would have been a hell of a lot more snow, but that's just me. Maybe Scooby-Doo has led me astray on my avalanche knowledge. And guys, there are just so many theories surrounding this case. If you haven't looked into it, you just don't understand when I say there's a lot. I really do mean it. Like, I grazed over the aliens and the Yetis because you guys can imagine what those are on your own. But I have got to believe that there's something weird going on here. Whether it's more sci-fi than government involvement, I don't know, but it's definitely hinky. There are just so many books, movies, and, YouTube channels and podcasts explaining the different theories in depth. So I'm just going to drop a few of the ones that look the most interesting. As I mentioned before, the movie is Devil's Pass, the books Dead Mountain and Return to Dyatlov Pass. I recommend the second book just because the cover looks super cool. It looks like it has a giant Yeti on it. And the YouTuber Bella Fiore has an interesting video or episode on this incident as well, where she explains things better than me and uses a bunch of pictures to help you understand. Bella's video is actually one of the sources I used to research this episode, just so you guys know. On what caused the incident, I'm going to go with some form of government or military plot. Maybe not to kill those 9 hikers, but one which resulted in such an outcome, because, where's the missing film footage from the camera that we wrote down in our sleuth books? Bet you guys thought I forgot, but I didn't. If you recovered some of the footage, it was film. So, where's the rest of the film? But as always, I want to know what y'all think. People have been commenting like crazy that this is their favorite case ever, so I know you guys have opinions. Let me hear them by DMing me at Cold Case Study on Instagram or Facebook, or by emailing me at coldcasestudy@gmail.com. If you have any case requests, you can go to bit.ly/C, S, REQACASE. Or you can just use the link tree in my Instagram and Facebook bios, which is probably easier. And you can peep my new website and Etsy shop. As always, the case notes and resources for this case will be available on my Instagram for you guys to check out. I love you guys so much and am so thankful for you all putting up with me this month. I will see you next week for another cold case.